Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to Your Soul Revolution. I'm so excited to be here with my first guest, Jodi Gilbert. She is the owner, head therapist, all the things for Flora Integrated Wellness, which is a wellness spa in Escondido, California. And I had the pleasure of meeting her in person when I went to visit my bestie and immediately felt like I needed to bring her on the podcast. You guys needed to meet her. I needed to share her magic with the world. So here we are. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. It is so fun to be a part of your podcast and talk about all things health, wellness, mind, body, spirit, all the stuff.
Yes, I met Jodi back in October. Geez, it seems like it was yesterday. And we were chatting. It was my first colonic. So colon hydrotherapy is one of the things that they do at Flora Integrated Wellness. And she just made me feel so at ease. I had such an amazing experience, like not just physically, but emotionally and all the things. And in our just under an hour together, we were talking about human design, Louise Hay, like all the things. And I was like, this is my jam. She's one of my soul sisters. So I guess one of the things I was just in awe of your journey in getting to where you are and how early you came into this and how it came into your life. So maybe you can start by just sharing that kind of how you found this or how it found you and what it's done for you over the last 20 plus years.
I feel like I have to start it from the beginning, which might be a long story. But so when I was 4 years old, I had spinal meningitis. And at the time, there weren't a lot of kids that were surviving that. And the kids that did survive were either mentally disabled, physically disabled, or just there was a lot of medical issues. So thank God I pulled through, but I had so much autoimmune stuff that was happening in my body. And back in the 80s, that wasn't really a thing. And my parents grew up in a small town in Michigan. And it was like, you eat what's on the table, you eat it or you don't eat. And so I was eating have the most amazing parents. They're loving. They wanted me to be healthy in every way, but my body was rejecting all of the food I was fed. And my parents didn't know about all the things, and it wasn't really a thing either. So I was a severely constipated child. And from 4 years old until 16 years old, I would have a bowel movement once every 30 days. And that was medically induced. It would be taking laxatives, and I would just spend the weekend in the bathroom feeling miserable. But then that Monday I'd go to school and I'm like, today's going to be a great day because I can have energy and I could actually learn things a little bit better. That was another thing with my spinal meningitis was I had only long-term memory. I didn't have any short-term memory. And I felt like things started to finally click when I would have more bowel movements. And that's been this fun theory that I've had for a really long time now because I experienced it firsthand. So fast forward, I was in high school, sitting in dance class, and we were working on a project, and the teacher was pairing us up, and she paired me with this girl, and we had some dead time. So I was like, hey, what are you doing for college? She's like, I'm not going to college. I'm going to own my family business. I was like, oh, what's that? She goes, colon hydrotherapy. And it's like, huh? What? And she just bluntly asked me, how often do you go to the bathroom? And it was as if she asked me I don't know, a very intimate question, which it is. And I was like, I don't. I don't go to the bathroom. And she was like, oh my gosh, she got so excited on me. Can I practice on you this summer? I'm going to get certified. And I want to get certified on you because you're going to write me a testimony that you go to the bathroom every day and you're going to launch my career. I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And then we had to conjure up some kind of story for my parents because they were very close-minded. And if I told them that I was going to spend the summer with my girlfriend doing colonics, they would be like, no. So her mom, who is a teacher for colon hydrotherapy, taught her on me. So my very first colonic that I had ever given or had ever received was the first that she had ever given. So that was a very bonding moment. But what I noticed, because her family was vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, all the things. And so I stayed with her for that summer and was doing colonics, and everything in my body shifted. I had energy. I was going to the bathroom. At first it was, it took me, if I remember correctly, about 6 sessions before anything came out of my body. It was just concrete in there. And in the 3 months of doing a vegan lifestyle with colonics, I had lost 25 pounds.
Wow.
And I could say that was purely bowel. Yeah, it was just purely my abdomen. And so when I came back my senior year of high school, it was like someone on a switchboard just turned all my switchboards on. It was fine. I would read something and I would retain it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how I'm supposed to feel. I just remember being that voice inside of me screaming this isn't the way it's supposed to be. I shouldn't have to try this hard. I'm 14 years old, I'm 15 years old, I'm 16 years old. My friends are just getting things and they have energy and they're happy, and I'm just miserable. And so my senior year of high school, I was like, this is the way people feel, and this feels good. And it ignited just life back into me. And I originally wanted to go to college to be a nurse. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep to that. But then once I graduated high school, my friend's mom approached me and she's like, hey, you have crazy potential to do this. And do you want to intern for us right out of high school? And I'll teach you for free, basically, just intern for us and do our back office and all that. And I was like, yeah, I need a job while I'm going to school. And so I was going to school for nursing while doing holistic therapy and learning holistic everything. And there came just a huge fork in the road where I did a shadowing for a nurse. And I was like, this isn't it. I don't want to, even though I love nurses and thank God for nurses, I swear they make the hospital. I just didn't want to be a part of the pharmaceutical, pushing pharmaceuticals and being a part of the death and the barely surviving. I wanted to be a part of the thriving part. Let's heal your body. Let's give life back how I felt I was given with colonics. And then I switched out of nursing and went to nutrition science and exercise science, and then just dove deeper into herbs and nutrition and more certifications that enhanced what I did. And so I have been a colon hydrotherapist since 2004. So now it's 2024. So it's been 20 years, and it just it feels like it was yesterday. It's so exciting. I was at an event just talking about colonics, and I felt like I was 18 again. Everyone needs to do colonics. It'll save your life. They're like, wow, did you just get into this? I'm like, no, but it's exciting. So that was a long story, but I worked for my friend's family for a really, really long time. And then I just recently started my own business. And so I've been in my own business now for 3 months. So it's exciting.
Oh my God. Congratulations again
Thank you.
on that. It's so big. And I just love, it's one of the things I noticed immediately about you is like that this is where your passion is. And that's the thing that's so amazing, like you said about nurses, right? There's so many things in this world
Mhm.
that we can do. But if we like follow the thing that lights us up, not only are we going to help people because there's so many different ways to
Mhm.
help people, but we get to also like light up the people around us. And like that's what's contagious. It almost doesn't matter what you do. It's like sharing that passion and that light in the world. And it just like
Mhm.
makes other people want to do the same thing. And it gives us all permission to do that. So
I would
that's
agree.
amazing.
Thank you.
Um, I have so many questions. I'm trying to decide where to start.
Anywhere.
Um, so let's talk about, so like I came to see you. It was my
Mhm.
first time. I'd never really, only because of my friend Marita, I like knew what they even were. And I didn't really know that until later in life. Like I assume that a lot of people you see their first time like are the same. They like somehow found this. What is, I guess, the most common person that comes to you, and like how do people kind of get started on this journey? Because for most people it's not when they're in high school, right?
No, and I was actually just did an interview with I love when I get teenagers in my office. I did an interview for this I think she's 17. She's doing her senior project and she's doing it on kind of the same thing, like empowering women to be in their purpose. And I was just like, oh my God, just so excited that you're 17 years old and you're like already doing colonics and you're already embarking on this journey. Like it just gives
Mhm.
me a lot of hope for that future generation. Um, so what was your question? Like how do people find
Yeah,
clarity?
like what do the average person who comes to see you, like to
Mhm.
start their journey, like what are their concerns, and I guess how do they get started, or what does that look like?
Gosh, there's so many. Unfortunately, the majority of people who find me is like this is their last resort. Like I have done it all. I have paid thousands and thousands of dollars to this doctor, to that doctor, to this and that, and no one can pinpoint what's wrong with me. And you're my last ditch effort. I guess I'll do a colonic. What's the worst that could happen? And it's unfortunate, but also like excited because we can finally address the body. I don't know why a lot of doctors, I think more so now, a lot of naturopaths are addressing the colon a little bit more, but just the conventional doctors are not. And there's just so much. I mean, I'm sure that's going to be another question. So much going on in the colon that affects our body. Constipation, I would say, is a big one. I get a lot of people in who are just chronically constipated, and they go to the bathroom once a week, or they're on laxatives. They feel super bloated. Um, just I would say constipation is about 35% of why people come in. Um, I would say maybe 10% is people just curious and want to feel better and just like, oh, why not? Let me just do this. And then I would say the other percent is they've gone through the medical and they don't know what's wrong with them. And they're just like, what? Sure, let's do a colonic. Let's see what happens.
Isn't that crazy? Like basically 90% of people are trying to solve an issue that's
Mm-hmm.
been unsolvable or whatever, and it's only 10%. Like you were talking about wanting to be in this business partially because it's focused on like people thriving versus surviving, which is
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately how healthcare is in the US. But it's just, it's so amazing to me that like these fairly simple therapies, there's so much that we can do and address within ourself, right? This is a very like should be a simple conversation, like you said, can be or seem intimate, but like we should be talking about how often we're going to the bathroom or letting it be a sign of something being off. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just amazing to me that I don't know, like obviously you're already trying to shout this from the rooftops, but hopefully this podcast will help as well.
Just reach as many people as possible. I feel like really, really grateful that I created my own business because it ignited back in me to go out into the world and talk about what I do more. I feel like the last 20 years of just my schedule has just been my regular people, and I didn't have enough time and space to take in more clients. And now starting my own, I'm like, wow, this is exciting. I get to reach new people. I get to advertise, and I get to talk like colon 101 with people again. One of my favorite things to do with a client is educate them on their bodies, empower them on their bodies, empower them about what their bowels look like when, like, look in the toilet, see what comes out. That gives us a huge understanding of what our body is doing. Gosh, I just think education is so empowering. And a lot of times when people come in, they don't know anything about their colon. They don't know anything about their organs. They don't know what's going on inside their bodies. They just know that they're not feeling good.
Yeah. Well, let's go there. Okay,
Yeah.
so education wise, what are like the top three things you would share with people? What are ways that they can start to be more aware, to take control of their life and their body a little bit more?
The first thing that came to my mind is I always talk about living intuitively. So, and having a connection to what's going on in our bodies. So much in the standard American lifestyle, we're out here and we're not pulling it back into here. So if like a doctor says, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you actually feel into that, does that feel in alignment with your body? Does that feel good? Because it could be really great. And maybe you do need to take this or that or do this or that for your body. But does all of that sound in alignment for you? And it could be scary because a lot of times it's easier to just trust someone else saying, you do this X, Y, and Z, and you don't have to think for yourself. But it often leaves us in a state where we're still not thriving and we're suffering and we're losing hope because we gave all of our hope to someone else. When we can just pull that back in and just, okay, like I trusted this person. I'm taking X and whatever supplement. How does it feel when I take it? Having a journal and just journaling, like I took this is how I felt. Even when it came to like, I took this supplement and then 30 minutes later, I screamed and yelled at my kids and I had it. I didn't have any, like I was just over it. Like, okay, that's something to know because that is a response that your body is having to that supplement. Things just so little like that we just end up like flippantly be like, oh, I'm just tired. Oh, it's just this, where really it's our bodies talking to us. After I took this supplement, I was constipated or I felt whatever it is. And then I do tell them too, like if it's a cleansing supplement, you're not going to always feel great. You might feel nauseous. You might feel certain kinds of way of detox responses. But the number one thing that I really like to talk to clients about and educate them on is just living intuitively, living in our bodies, really feeling what it feels like. Journaling about how it feels, because we often forget. Oh, I totally forgot I don't like gluten. When I ate gluten the other day, I swole up and I was like, yeah, that gluten. I remember now. And so a lot of times when you just look back in our book, like every single time I ate gluten, I woke up and I gained 5 pounds or was swollen or whatever it was. So that I would say I talk a lot about that. I also just talk about the colon, just the anatomy of it. The average person doesn't really know it, which is that your colon is 6 feet long. And in order for it to fit between our rib cage and our hips, it has to accordion down on itself. And why that's problematic is you have all of these folds that line the center line of the colon. So when someone says, I have a bowel movement every day, I don't need a colonic, I'm like, great. I'm glad that you're starting at the point where you're not constipated. But what happens is every single time you go through a fight or flight response, someone cuts you off on the freeway and you do that jump, your colon spasms and it takes what's in the center line of the colon and it pulls it into the fold. It's a life-saving mechanism in our system because we're obviously running from a lion at this point, and we can't stop and have a bowel movement because we'll die, and or we can't leave our scent because then we'll be found. So it goes back to just such caveman. That's how, that's our body. Our body wasn't designed to be in this fast-paced, moving, constant things flying at us, and our body's just constantly in this place. If you think about it, just in the last 24 hours, how many times did you have that feeling? Even if someone yells at you or your kid yells at you and you do that feeling, your colon goes and it pulls it into those folds. And what's hard is that fold is now clamped shut. How do you get this matter out? So the average standard American, because of that stress and of course our diet, we have about 20 pounds of fecal matter, like calcified in the folds of the colon that you can never get out ever unless you do a colonic. And that's what's so life-giving about a colonic is that we apply pressure, really light pressure of water into the colon, and it starts to open up those folds. Then we get that water in and we soften and we move that hard matter out. We move the toxin out. And if we bring it to the next level, that matter is also holding on to the energy that you had at that time, the trauma that you had at the time, stuff that was going on. And I really like to educate that day one because I want the client to know that there might be times where we're doing a colonic and you might have a memory that pops up that you totally forgot about, a trauma. And it's completely safe and allowed, and it's not unnormal. It's not, it's normal to and just start talking about it. Talk about what just came up for you, because then the body just starts purging more and purging more and purging more as they start to address that memory that just came up in them, which is just, it blows my mind every time I get someone on my table that goes through that. It's such an honor, and it's the true work. Now that person is going to forever be changed in a positive way because they're able to move that trauma out of their bodies. Not only that compacted matter, the gas that gets stuck in there that makes them bloated. There's so much there. So it's just two things. Those are two things that I really like to talk to people about. And then of course, just hydrating. The average person is dehydrated. So if we just start at just being hydrated, our systems and our bodies would work so much better.
Yeah.
So, my cat. Hi. So, and then nutrition, I would say is the next one, is just talking to people about nutrition, really taking time to feel their body, just how I said at the beginning, like, okay, you eat. I'm not saying not everyone should take out dairy or everyone should take out gluten or everyone should take out all these inflammatory things. Your body might be completely fine with it, but have you actually looked at it?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to eat normal, and then I'm just going to keep a journal of how I feel. Every single time I have soy, I feel bloated, I feel distended, I feel miserable, whatever it is, to just start I want to say self-diagnosing, but that's kind of a controversy word to use in my field. But it is. It's a lot more honest than going to a doctor and getting a food panel. Just doing your own journal.
I think it goes back. I mean, I love how everything you said is education and like giving the power back to the person, because like it is just like self-awareness and following your intuition, and society tells us like that we have no power and we don't know the answers, and we have to go to someone who's been certified for 12 years to tell us what to do, and we can't figure it out ourselves. And like, it just, as someone who's been on the other side and through chronic disease, and as you, like, it's so
Mhm.
frustrating because you're like, no, no, like it's like your intuition and your body knows, like, there's another answer here. This is like,
Mhm.
doesn't have to be this complicated. And like, again, it takes us years and years to get to the point where things are that awful. Like you said, a lot of people coming to you, like, have been trying to figure out what's wrong. Like, why is my body doing this? Why isn't it
Mhm.
working optimally? And they finally find you. But it's, how can we, like, listen and tune into ourselves more and, like,
Mhm.
realize that we do have the power to do a lot of things ourselves, and
Mhm.
just like you said, connect the dots. Like, if
Mhm.
you actually paid attention to what was happening, like, you'd see the messages. Like, the body's always sending us messages. One of the things I always say is, like, I hate labels because I think it turns us away from ourselves. And, like, I think that all symptoms are just messages from our body. And I think that it just wants us to listen.
Mhm.
And so often we just ignore it, or we, like, go do what someone else is telling us to do, or what everyone else with the same symptom is doing, when in reality, like, no two bodies are alike. And like you said, some people are like, oh, I can't eat this, that, or the other, and some people can eat whatever. But it's just like being mindful of what it does to your body, and how your body is speaking to you and telling you to do things.
Yeah,
um
fully. And it ebbs and flows. Every decade of our life, I feel like things shift. A lot of times people hold on to, well, like I've always been able to eat that. I'm like, yeah, but you're in your 30s now, or you're in your 40s now, and things change. And the
yeah,
way that our food is processed has changed. So let's just look at it.
yeah,
Let's just try something different.
yeah,
But it's so empowering to be able to just know your body. I feel like there's so much fear to, as soon as something goes wrong, it's like, like, I need help, and trying to like pull
yeah,
everyone in to try to help you. And that comes from a place of just not understanding what your body's
yeah,
trying to tell you, and learning that language. It's a whole new language. And
yeah,
a lot of times I'm teaching someone who's in their 50s and their 60s to finally learn the language, and
yeah,
they're able to have a new lease on life, and able to do things that they never were able to do even in their 40s. So it's so rewarding. It's so exciting, you know?
yeah, yeah. Like, going back again to you talking about thriving, because I feel like, again, in the way, like, the that healthcare is right now, it's like people think that being healthy is like just being symptom free, right? Let's
Mhm.
say. And there's so much more, like you said, like being, like, nourished, being, like, hydrated, having, like, awareness, and the functions, like, being fully working and making you feel alive. Like, I think that a lot of people don't even realize that, like, more or better is possible, because we just kind of get used to, like, oh, I only go to the bathroom once a week, and I feel bloated, like, almost every day, and, like, all these things. It's like we're like, our mind's saying, the easiest thing for our mind is like, I'll just do the same thing I did yesterday. And so then we just get used to it, even though it's painful or hard. We're like, well, I survived it yesterday. And it just goes back to that surviving. Is that what you want to keep doing? Or do you want to, like, thrive and really see what's possible for you and for your body? And yeah.
I feel like it's human nature to adapt. Like, because we have to figure out how to live. And so our bodies learn to adapt in dysfunction. And so you're like, well, I survived it and I'm just going to adapt. Now this is just my new way of life. And then we validate it. Oh, it's because I'm now 40. Oh, it's because I had kids. Oh, it's because we validate it. And then our body just gets adaptive. And then we think it's normal to function in this place of dysfunction. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you wake up and now you're extremely dysfunctional because now something has manifested in a chronic illness or disease or something that brings you joy, like going for a walk. Now you can't go for a walk. Now you can't pick up your grandkids. Now you can't do these things that you didn't realize started way back when you were just validating this dysfunction in your body. But it's also human nature for us to just, oh, okay. And we just go about life. That's why I really try to bring it back into intuition. Like, is this how I'm supposed to feel?
Mm.
And there's moments and times where I'm on a cleanse or I'm doing something and I'm in a lot of discomfort, but it's like, okay, I'm going through this discomfort because on the opposite side of it, I'm going to be in a different place and I'm going to be thriving. So I'm not saying everything should just feel hunky dandy dory and we should all just feel amazing. There's definitely
Yeah.
a lot of moments where we have to go through it. And cleansing is hard work. It's a lot
Yeah.
harder to cleanse and to be intuitive and to address your body than to hand over that power to someone else. That's so much easier to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's, like my brain just thought about the colon. A lot of people don't realize is where we actually absorb nutrients in the foods that we eat. Everyone thinks it's the stomach. No, it's your colon. It's so crazy. Like, that is like our cesspool of toxins that has just been there forever. But it's also the place where you're supposed to absorb all these nutrients that you're eating. So
Mm.
sometimes people might start on I'm going to do this new diet. I'm going to do this cleanse. I'm going to do this or that. And they're not getting the results that they want, which is why when they finally make it to the colonic, if you just did the colonic with these other amazing supplements that your naturopath gave you, you might have actually had a lot more progress because your body could finally absorb the nutrients that you were just feeding it, that you spent thousands and thousands of dollars to then not go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That makes my mind blown every single time I say it. Like,
Yeah.
you don't absorb your nutrients in your colon if it's all like gunked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a trip,
Wow. Yeah.
And so when people are like, oh, when am I going to be done with my colonics? I'm like, that's up to you. It's up to your lifestyle. It's up to your stress. It's up to what you're needing in your body. I personally do a colonic once a week, but I'm also in a place where I am still dealing with autoimmune disorders. And so when I have a colonic, I'm able to clean that slate. Like, I'm able to start from a fresh slate every week. And that feels so good and so in alignment
Mm.
for me. Other people, it's every 2 weeks. Some people, it's every month. Some people, it's 4 times a year. So it's just really understanding what your body needs with your lifestyle and what your lifestyle is.
Yeah. I love that. Like, because I think it's important to, like meet people where they're at. And again, like intuitively, everyone's going to be different and they're going to know what they need. Or like maybe you just, with your schedule or your life or money or for whatever reason, you can't do it weekly or whatever. I think that there's ways to start and just listen to the body and be guided. I was going to ask, like, if someone comes to you and they come for like their first colonic and like wants to kind of make a shift or two at home, like after to kind of help things. progress or stay in a good place? I know you talked about the few like educational things, but are there like either diet or like obviously hydration you mentioned, but are there things that you suggest like in between sessions or that people can do themselves to kind of take more control over helping the body function better?
Oh yeah, hydration. Of course, I want all my clients to be drinking at least half their body weight in ounces of water a day. You can pay me $100 to hydrate you. I'd rather not. I'd rather get the toxins and the hard compacted matter out. Like I want you to come in and get on my table hydrated so that I don't have to hydrate you, which is why it's called colon hydrotherapy. Like we're hydrating the body. But and I do get a lot of elderly that come in, and that's all they just need to be hydrated, and that's what I do for them, just as hydrate them. But um drinking water, staying away from processed foods. So just in that, for a lot of people, that's a huge homework assignment.
Mm-hmm.
What in your pantry and in your kitchen is packaged, and don't eat it. And for a lot of people, that's all they have. That's everything.
Yeah.
Everything that they eat is packaged. And I get it. Like a mom of 4 kids and da 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 da. Like those are easy things. But how can we shift this one package thing for something that's whole foods? Whole
Mm-hmm.
foods meaning that it comes from the earth. Man hasn't altered it. Um, so I give that as like a homework assignment. Like, okay, just observe observe what's packaged, and next time you go to the grocery store, don't buy that, buy something else. If you do potato chips, like buy some red potatoes and slice them up and put them in the oven and experience that. Get an air fryer, now you can make your own fries, or you could do this or that, and just seeing how they feel, just changing one item from not being processed to being a whole food item
Mm-hmm.
feels so much better in their bodies, and they're not so bloated, they're not so gassy when they get on the table. um Self-care, I talk a lot about self-care, dry skin brushing, getting in Epsom salt baths, um, doing meditation practices or breathing practices, seeing where in your life you are stressed or don't feel supported, and because that's a big component of our health is stress, but also like how are we taking care of our bodies, um, and being empowered in that way of just taking care of your body, um, and that can look so different for anyone. Doing yoga, going for a walk, like okay, I just got done from work. A lot of times like, oh, I just got done from work, and then I just feel this, like now I have to make dinner, or now I have to do this. Like, okay, so pause and just go outside, go for a walk, take some deep breaths. And it's insane how that reinvigorates you, and you all of a sudden have more energy, even though our brain thinks, well, that takes more energy for me to go outside and go do that. It's not. It's life-giving. And just finding little moments where you can get out of a rut that just makes you feel depressed or makes you feel sluggish. um just grabbing water, like, oh, I just ate dinner and now I'm starving again. Okay, grab water, do that instead. um it's so fun. It's like everyone has different puzzle pieces
Yeah.
on what they need. And what's so fun about seeing someone regularly is that we get to talk about those things. Like, okay, how did you feel? What did you do different? And
Yeah.
how did that make you feel? And how did that ripple effect in your lifestyle? Is it's transformative,
Yeah.
and they feel
I
better
think,
about themselves.
yeah. I think people are so too like they want things to work right away and beat that instant gratification. Like everything's at our fingertips now in the world and like we can get things quickly. But it's like there is a level, again, if you're letting your body and your intuition guide you, there's a level of like experimentation that needs to be done. Like, does
Mhm.
this work for me? Does this work? Or like, how does this feel? Or how do I feel after I eat these types of things or do this sort of thing? And it is like, I think that's why it's so, it has to come back to that, right? Because we can't give the same advice to everyone and everyone's
Mhm.
different. But if we start with like, you have the power, like you said, open a journal, keep track, like pay attention more, like
Mhm.
changing things one thing at a time. It doesn't have to be like 0 to 100 like
And I
overnight.
don't suggest
And
that. Like I never
yeah,
I never suggest going and doing all the things. I just like just observing. Step 1, make one change. Step 2, do that for consistently.
yeah,
Then we can start looking at something else because it's so hard to just add a completely different lifestyle. It's not going to stick.
yeah,
It's going to be too overwhelming.
yeah,
And that's what's also amazing about seeing someone regularly is that I get to help them with each phase. Like, okay, now we're ready for this. Um,
yeah.
it's funny because the thing that pops in my head was actually my boyfriend. He was a client of mine, and when he first came in, he's like, I'm just going to tell you, you're not taking my wine away. You're not, I'm not changing my diet. I'm not doing this. So you're just going to sit there and give me my colonic. I'm like, okay, sounds good. And I did that for a few months, and then the body actually starts talking to you.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, what can I do? I'm like, okay, step 1, take out the dairy out of, because with his specific body, it was just so much congestion and mucus and inflammatory, and it just felt like what I was seeing in his body, he needed to take dairy out. So he shifted just putting milk in his coffee to doing an alternative milk and taking sugar out of that coffee and doing honey instead, just those little shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Came back the next day, he's like, I love that coffee, that's like so rewarding, my body feels so good, like how is that so good? I'm like, because it's not just your brain saying I need this coffee, now it's your body saying, oh, I accept this version of
Yeah.
coffee. And then he did that for a while, and then he's like, okay, what else can I do? I'm not quite feeling that. I'm like, let's take out gluten. And he like dropped 20 pounds just taking gluten out, just substituting. Like, it's not even that he didn't he ate less calories. It was just like, do gluten free, just take that out. And then he was able for the first time in his life to stabilize his weight without having to work out rigorously every day, just
Mm-hmm.
by taking the inflammatory foods out of his diet and being able to detox the old gunk out. So it's fun when I get challenges like that where they come in, they're like, you're not doing anything. I'm like, okay, we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. And the body starts to talk. And that's what's so
Yeah.
beautiful about cleansing the colon. It's, you know, it,
Yeah.
it'll start communicating.
Yeah. I feel like it, and on that, it is a journey, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
like over 3 years ago, I gave up alcohol. Like it's been like 5 months now since I've had any caffeine, but like
Congratulations.
I couldn't have done those previously. Like it was too much for me, right? It was like one thing at a time, but now I'm like, oh my God, how did I ever like drink that much? Or how did I ever have that caffeine? Like I literally had my brother was here for my birthday and we went out to breakfast and I had a matcha. I forgot like that there was caffeine in it. And I had like 3 sips and I literally was like, and I think I started drinking caffeine like in college when I was studying for exams. And I don't really ever remember it like working in the sense where it like actually kept me awake, or maybe it did when I was
Mhm.
like 18, 19. But then since then, it's just like, it's more like a habit. Like I would drink 2 cups a day and the only thing I would feel is the crash after. Um, and it's just like, but like for some people, they be like, no, you're not taking my coffee. And like, you just have to go. Like, I got to the point where I don't even feel like I gave anything up because my
Mhm.
body's just happier without it. Like I have more energy than I did drinking coffee, which to most people seems backwards, but
Well,
it's just about like,
it zapped your adrenals,
yeah,
you know? So then you go into like, well, your adrenals are probably suffering. So for your specific body, adding that caffeine onto your adrenals, it haywired it out so it couldn't even
yeah,
function. And those things are so cool to hear, because that tells us right there that your adrenals need support, and coffee is not the thing for it.
yeah,
And there's some bodies that do fine with caffeine, and it that's
yeah.
it's so brilliant though that you are able to see that, and that you have so much energy now not even having the caffeine. Like if you
I
told your
love
past self that,
it.
you'd probably be like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
I need coffee.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
No, it's
congratulations
crazy.
and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sometimes we have to be reminded though by that matcha, you get
Yeah.
reminded like, oh, okay, this is why I don't do this anymore.
I couldn't even finish it. I was like, here, someone else has to drink this. Like, and I am sad because I actually did really like matcha lattes. But anyways, um, I've actually been drinking like a lot more cacao in the morning. One of my like really good friends here is like a cacao facilitator and got me
Mhm.
into it. And at first I was kind of like, it's just another thing. But now that I don't drink coffee, I'm like, oh my God, I actually love it.
It's
And
a ritual.
yeah,
I feel
it
like
is like
yeah.
the
I feel like what
slow morning.
coffee gives you that ritual. And I
Yeah.
feel like more times than not, that's what we crave is
Yeah.
just the production of it and the smelling of it, and that's a
Yeah.
morning routine of doing that. And the cacao is amazing.
Yeah. The magnesium, actually, it's really good for my bowel movements too,
Yes.
if we're talking about that. So, but, yeah, I think, and like you said, it's like, there's like for me it's the pleasure of that like slow
Mhm.
morning routine that I need in my life, and that not only like now that I've replaced coffee, which is better for me like physically, it's just like it's something that's part of my emotional routine, which again leads to like the health of our body too. And I know we already talked about that, but like what are some of the, I kind of want to hear like, because I know you pay attention to them and you talked about like you love when you see someone even having like an emotional experience on the table because you're like, oh my God, this is going to be so good for them. They just released all this, not only physical stuff, but emotional stuff. Like, I don't know. Do you have like favorite experiences or things you've seen that you like still, you've obviously been doing this 20 years, but are there times
Mhm.
where you're like, I'm never going to forget that? That is so amazing, that just make you more in awe of what you do?
Yeah, I had the first person that came to mind was probably like pretty quick in my career. I think I was a colon hedge therapist for about 5 years. And no, I do a lot more than just colonics. We do a lot of other things. It's just colonics is the thing that a lot of people don't hear about the most. But I was doing it for about 5 years, and there was this flight attendant that she was just feeling awful. She's feeling awful. She went to all the doctors and nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. And I was like, okay, I need to get you in like 3 colonics. I feel like for your body, we can really understand and address what's going on. And she's like, I have 3 days for you. I'm like, okay, I want you to come in every day for 3 days. She's like, okay. So, and I had her on a bone broth diet, and some mono juices. That means just you're just doing like just celery, or just to like, a lot of times when we add a lot of things into our juices, it can create a gut bomb. And so she did that for 3 days. Her third day, and I wish I was like at my table so you guys can see like how long it was, but she released a parasite that was like going into the drain, and it was still like in her body.
Oh my God.
So that was about 4 feet long.
Wow.
And it was as if there was like, I was looking at her and it was as if she had like an exorcism of some sort. Like her breath was like, she wasn't even seeing was coming out. I was just like, um, uh, what, what is this? And just looking at her, and her face, was so like colorless, um, up until that point. That parasite came out, and she had that crazy like breath that she took in, and it was like whoosh, her face became vibrant, like blood flow into her face. And she just looked at me, she goes, "What was that?" I was like, "Yeah, I think that was in your body for a really long time, it to grow that big." you
Yeah.
know um she was probably about in her late 40s, early 50s, and she was a flight attendant since she was in her 20s. And she said in her early 20s she would, go over to this country and stay there for a while. And she's like, I was living it up. I'm like, I that got into your system in your 20s, and we just released it,
Wow.
you know 20, 30 years later. That's when I first was like, oh, there is such a thing as parasites. Because I had seen things that were coming out of people for those first 5 years. But in my industry, we're not allowed to diagnose or say this is what this is, or what is. But there were some things where I'm like, what is this? That comes out of people when they're doing certain cleanses or when they're doing things a certain way. That was like, oh, that was a worm, a 4 foot worm that came out of that person's body. And then that just ignited in me like learning about parasites and learning about how to kill them. And that was monumental, I think, to be like the
Yeah.
coolest things. And how she felt like that was it, that's what I needed, and all this
Yeah.
my body now. And then I would say, cleansing from the liver. The liver is a very spicy liver. I always like tell my clients, I'm like, yeah, this is where you're going to really be in your yoga. People who do yoga is like you're in a daily practice of yoga, and that's when things are challenging. And to tell the body that I'm safe and it's okay, that these emotions are coming up, that I'm feeling nauseous, I'm feeling sick, I feel like I need to go to the hospital right now. And it's like reminding the body, okay, these feelings are going to pass in like 5 minutes. Just breathe through it and remind the body that it's safe. And then this is your body releasing trauma and toxins that have been stored in your body for a really long time, and to just sit with them and let them breathe, and then just witness what comes up for them emotionally. It's like, whew, that it's so exciting. Like the first time I think that had ever happened, for me. And I remember the client, and he's now a dear friend of mine. And he's very in tune with his body. He managed like the Chopra Center, and he was just very intuitive. And he would express to me like, this is what's coming up, this is how I'm feeling, this is releasing from my body right now. And it really started to start me on that journey of like, wow, we can really start to purge and release traumas and triggers in the body. That was really cool. I'll
And
always
that's like a liver cleanse.
that's just colonics.
Okay. Like
That's just
after, though, or on the table, or both?
on the table. I mean, I do have clients that will do like liver cleanses or different types of cleanses, but these are people who weren't even on a cleanse. They're just doing colonics,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Yeah.
it's just so fascinating. What happens like with the anatomy of the body is, say we take in say alcohol. Say we take in that alcohol, and the body is trying to filter that through the liver. And the liver, and I do you remember the Magic School Bus?
Yeah.
from like that cartoon. Like I think of it like that. It's like we're going through, and every like organ and everything has like a personality and a character.
Yeah.
So the liver's like, oh my gosh, incoming! Like I have all this toxin I need to filter. Like, hey gallbladder, can I give this to you? And the gallbladder's like, I'm packed full. I can't take anything. It's like, okay, spleen, do you have space? The spleen's like, nope. Everyone's like, yeah, nope. I'm at full capacity, full capacity. Okay, colon, what about you? And the colon's like, So then it just it's like, okay, I'm gonna try to figure this out, and it starts to calcify those toxins because it can't give the toxins to any other organ. And then that starts calcifying and calcifying and calcifying, and then you get these gunked up liver um, uh, bile ducts. And so when people are like, well, how do I get the liver? How are you saying that my liver is releasing when we're just working with the colon? I'm like, because finally we got your colon to release. And now the liver's like, oh, thank God, I'm going to give you,
New
and
space.
now I'm just going to purge my toxins because I've been holding this forever. And then everything can start cycling. Then the gallbladder's like, okay, cool, now I can give my toxins back to the liver because the gallbladder just is like a storage unit.
Yeah.
And then that's how we get gallstones and all of that because things just sit in there forever. And then everything just starts cycling and cycling and cycling through, and then you're purging all those toxins through your colon, through the colonic. So the person doesn't even need to be on a specific cleanse. It does
Yeah.
help speed things up, but the body is just so excited to have freedom in there to just release its toxins that it'll just continue to release its toxins. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You must see, do like you notice people that, especially that you see over like months and years, like they must like look different because I was looking back of at pictures when I was like I had like crazy psoriasis all over my body and like you know your skin's your biggest organ and it obviously got to a place where like not, it had nowhere to go so it was everywhere and I could see like right before it happened like my eyes like looked dead my face was like puffed out like you must see people like change like you said that the flight attendant like was just like glowing like because it affects every when your body's functioning like you just like light up.
Yeah. Yeah, because inflammation looks on our body, it changes the structure of everything. It also changes like even our eyes, the white of our eyes, or how wide our eyes are, how open it is, even just like the shape of the face. A lot of times when people are carrying so much inflammation, they're going to have a lot, wider of a face, or just so much inflammation in our lymphatic areas of our body. We have so much lymph here in the neck, so the neck might just be really, really swollen, and it appear like, oh, that person has like a lot of fat, but it's just so much water, it's so much toxins just sitting in our body. And then over time that pushes out through our skin because it has no place to go. So then
Yeah.
it's really interesting too to notice, okay, where is that psoriasis coming out? Where is those hives coming out? Where are the rashes coming out? And that's like your detox pathway of trying to push the toxins at least out through the skin.
Yeah.
But people transform. It's insane. Like I don't like to say that colonics are a weight loss because it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
But it does. I mean, it sheds inflammation. It transforms like our perception of life, which then shifts the way we look too, because now we just have a zest for living and thriving, and we're not carrying
Yeah.
that like that heaviness of life on us anymore. Which
Yeah.
is why I always get from like from everyone like, oh, what, you're like 23, and I was like, yeah, so colonics, like colonics. I was at the gym today, and this girl's like, "Oh, like I would invite you to this thing, but like you're probably 27, right?" And I was like, "I'm 37." She looked at me, she's like, "Okay." And and it has everything to do with colonics
Yeah.
because,
So
like,
amazing.
yeah, it has everything to do with, and the fact that I got the opportunity to be doing colonics at such a young age, that I'm able to work through my traumas and work through the toxins in my body. There's only so much I can do that's bad for me while doing colonics, where it just, I can't, like, you can't do bad things for yourself while doing colonics.
Yeah.
It just, you could try, you know.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that's like the biggest, like, walking billboard for me is, just when people, oh, it's probably easy for you, and I'm like, it's colonics. You have to cleanse the body, and more than just colonics. Like, say someone who has chronic fibromyalgia, or they have lots of lymphatic. We can address that with the colonic, but electrolymphatic therapy is really supportive for that body. The lymphatic system, of course, is what cleans our blood of toxin. So if we can help address the blood, which we can a little bit get the lymphatic toxicity out through the colon, but if we can really, like, package all that toxin up and deliver it to the colon to just move that out, it's really, really special to have people who, like, oh, I have a PT. I just had a jiu-jitsu uh, trainer, co-owner, come in yesterday, and he's like, I have chronic pain, like, it's da, da, da. And when you can address the blood, like, oh, you can do massage all day, all night, and that will feel good for that moment, but where are those toxins going once they get stirred up? Are they
Mm.
reabsorbed back in the body because the detox pathways aren't open? So doing electrolymphatic therapy, colon hydrotherapy, infrared saunas. We have PEMF mats, which vasodilates the blood and gets the blood moving and pumping a lot faster than
Mm.
that stagnation. Vibration plate, which is also really good for the lymphatic system, really good for building bone density. We do ear candling, which is really good for people who have chronic inflammation or sinus congestion. It also gives me a good insight to, what are you eating? Why you constantly have tons of mucus and congestion in this whole area. And also, people who carry a lot of tension in their jaw, they'll have really full ears because all of that gets inflamed. So it's like head
Mm.
to toe, different ways that we can help support the body, um,
Yeah.
purge and get better and thrive, and address the issues and teach them how to keep that going. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
someone dependent on coming in every week. I want them to learn how to keep their bodies in that thriving place, and then utilize us to just help help continue. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jeez. That's amazing. I'll just come live there and move in,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, it's amazing. Um, I hear it all the time, and I hear a lot of people saying, like, gosh, like, I heard about colonics 10 years ago, and I'm just finally doing it, and I wish I did it sooner. I hear that all the time. And I always say, I'm like, well, I'm happy you're here now, because no matter what, you're here and you're doing it. Maybe you weren't ready to make those huge changes 10 years ago,
Yeah.
because it invites a lot of change in your whole lifestyle for the better. Um,
Yeah.
so just and do your research on where you go. You want to go to someone who's certified. Colon hydrotherapy isn't regulated in that way. Like, you don't have to be certified in order to do colon hydrotherapy. So wherever you are in the world, definitely do colonics, but just do your research on if that colon hydrotherapist is certified, because then if they're certified, they're regulated through the FDA. And yeah, that means something, but it does, mean something in the sense that everything, like, my equipment is safe, and I can't, like, the equipment itself can't hurt the body, and I'm regulated to make sure that the client stays as safe and protected as possible for the entire time, where an uncertified person isn't liable for anything your
Yeah.
experience in any way. So that's
Yeah.
scary. And that's where a lot of the crazy stories come from. They're typically from therapists that are not certified.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think too, I'll add, like, obviously, especially coming to see you for like my first one, I felt very safe on the table, which I think,
Mhm.
like, I would just advise people to find someone you resonate with as well,
Mhm.
because I think, like you said, it's not just physical, it can be like emotional, and there's stuff like, we're made up of like 99% space, right? So that all this stuff is made up of like the things, the traumas, the things that we shove down and haven't dealt with for 10
Mhm.
years or whatever. And
Yeah.
I think, like, again, you want to be in that safe space so that the body knows like it's safe to release. Because otherwise, if you're
Mhm.
tense, it's going to be a lot harder. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Stress is a big point, and I would say interview your colon hedge therapist. Word of mouth, I think, is probably my favorite way of getting my name out, or anyone's name out. Like if you talk to someone and they had a really great experience, like that's where I would start. And reading
Yeah.
reviews and reading how people feel in that person's energy, and feel if that is in alignment with you. You
Yeah.
know, like, and I feel like the same thing for just doctors. Like, we should interview the people who are working on our bodies.
Yeah.
Like, do your research. Like, who are they online? Who are they here? Who are they there? It, do I feel just from this screen that do I feel a level of trusting just at this
Yeah.
place? And then schedule a consultation with them. Most people should have a consultation. See if you've how do you feel in that person's energy? Do you feel like, or maybe you start off by doing a foot detox with that person, and not just go to a colonic right away, just to see how they run their business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Take your power back and
Yes.
pick the right people and take care of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're in a vulnerable space, and I don't take that lightly at all. um, it's an honor. It's such an honor to hold that kind of space for people. And especially for men, because men are never in a vulnerable space.
Hmm.
It's a trip to think that, like, there's never a time where there's anything. I mean, of course, in the gay community, of course, but like, um a straight man doesn't have anything that is inside of their bodies that they have to trust
Yeah.
someone else to be in control of. And what
Yeah.
emotions come up with that, and how they feel in that space. It's such
Yeah.
an honor and a privilege to be there with them and talk through them, talk it, and they don't ever have to feel that pressure, or that cramping in their intestines. Like, they're they're kind of a baby in that sense, because they don't have to feel that feeling every month like women do. And so I like to tell them, like, your girlfriend or wife feels this to an exponential degree every day for like 4 to 7 days every single month. And they
Yeah.
look at me like, this, like, how this feels right now, this feels awful. And I'm like, yeah, so when she's a little short with you, can you imagine now taking care of kids? Like, where are you at right now? How you feel now, having to do all the things of life?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wow. So it's so nice to be like,
Yeah.
yay, go home to your wife and love her and kiss her and tell her how grateful you are that she's able to function while she feels this way.
Yeah.
You know.
Uh, so true. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing though.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jody, so much. This is
I
amazing.
feel like we could
Are
talk for
there any, I know, this is why I love hosting a podcast.
yeah.
Are there any last parting words of wisdom you want to share? I don't know. I feel like you've shared so much of it.
If you are on the fence, like you've thought about colonics, or this is the first time you've heard about colonics or cleansing in any way, number one, it doesn't have to look like colonics right away. Just start somewhere. Like electrolymphatic therapy and a foot detox is really good to start the body off, to start the cleansing. Do your research on who you go to. And don't let the intimidation of a speculum being in your rectum to intimidate you away from doing something that's so good for you. We just have to get our minds out of that place and just be like, okay, it might feel uncomfortable for 40 minutes, but I'm going to feel so much better afterwards. And if this is what you needed to say yes to go doing a colonic, just go do it. It's going to transform things for you for the better. Yeah, make sure before you do any kind of cleansing or colon hydrotherapy that you come prepped. Don't go and eat fast food or drink heavily the night before. Just make sure you actually take it seriously, because it can cause damage if you're the community, we call it retox detox. Like, don't retox so that we can detox. Like, that's just not going to be fun for either of us. Because you're going to be crying and it's hard. It's a hard space to hold. But I'm willing to do it to try to teach that lesson, in a sense of we need to bodies. And if say you can't afford it, or it's just not in alignment for you now, just start with little things. Drinking lemon water first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. That's going to start a gentle detoxification for your body. Drinking plenty of water, half your body weight upwards to your full body weight of ounces of water in a day. That's going to create a lot of detoxing for you. Any body, any human body, unless you have kidney issues, then that of course needs to be a little bit different. Taking hot Epsom salt baths is really, really good for the body to purge. Dry skin brushing is really good for the lymphatic system. Taking magnesium at night before you go to bed if you have any kind of constipation issues. Taking a good amount of magnesium is going to help. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to have a good bowel movement. You're going to feel better. If that's not working, add aloe vera juice. Then that combo, you take aloe vera juice in the morning, magnesium at night. That starts to flush things out for you, starting to get those toxins out. Yeah, those are my little things that you can do at home. You can do a lot of things at home to help support your body.
Yeah. Amazing. And if you're anywhere near Escondido, California, go see Jodi, because I promise she's the best one to see.
You can also follow, I have a lot of videos and tips on my Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, it is flora.integrated.wellness, Flora Integrated Wellness. And you could see a lot of videos just educating the community on how they can support their bodies at home, and information about colonics and why, and all the other detox modalities that we do. So even if you're not in Escondido, if you're going to travel, I give you a destination spot.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like I should have retreats with you coming there. Okay, anyways.
That would be amazing. We hosted a women's, it was a birthday party, and we closed down the office on a Sunday.
Oh God,
and so cool. We had a vegan caterer. We had a nail lady that came in, and we just had it be every girl was in her robe, and we were just going from room to room to room, and that was a fun.
That's so cool.
Party. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I'll share all the links in the show notes so you guys can follow Jodi, find her, all the things. And Yeah. Thank you so much for being
Thank you.
here.
Thank you so
This was
much.
amazing. I hope that it's really a topic, like I said, that I knew nothing about. I feel like it made such a big difference in my life. And so I just hope this helps people learn more about it, hear more about it, take the next steps, try it out for yourself. And yeah, above all else, like we said, listening to your body and just following what it's asking you to do.
Yeah. Just tune in. Just try to tune in. Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. So fun to just chat about all the
Yes.
things.
Yes. Thank you for being here. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
Yay! Bye.